Mama Kitanga of Ofowourri, the mama who could not read, who could not write, and who could not count, by Togbah Wleh. So friends, I am going to read or narrate this story for you guys. Mama Kitanga of Ofowourri, the mama who could not read, who could not write, and who could not count, by Togbah Wleh. Once upon a time, in the great land of KoutouKou, west of the Igbahmi River, just beyond the Kusanni Lake, there lived a woman named Mama Kitanga, or Eidiomma Kitanga for full. She was a middle-aged woman, which means if one counts a person's age from 1 to 100, middle age is from 45 to 65. While this woman's peers in age and experience referred to her as Eidomma, everyone, especially the young ones, called her Mama Kitanga or Mama Kitanga of Ofowourri. Though she now lived in KoutouKou, everyone knew that she was originally from Ofowourri, the land of beauty in all things. There, in Ofowourri, originated the most beautiful plants and animals, the best styles and fabrics, the most beautiful language and culture, and the most beautiful people. Eidiomma Kitanga was exceptionally tall, a statuesque woman whose outstanding figures was never mistaken, and whose presence was cherished by all. She was a sight well appreciated, a bundle of joy and charisma in words and deed. She was highly regarded throughout the land for her simplicity, friendliness, caring nature, truthfulness, and bravery. But in KoutouKou, Mama Kitanga was an ordinary market woman, or market woman, as the local would say in their distinct vernacular. She was ambitious but full of life. She often brought smiles and laughter on people's faces, making their day wonderful. If one was having a happy day, Mama Kitanga would make it even happier. And if one was having a bad, dark day, she would make it brighter. Nothing bored this woman, and nothing could disconcert her. She was excellent with children, especially annoying, mischievous teenagers hungry for attention. She could calm the angriest man down and even talk a soldier into giving her his weapon. She was patient with her rowdy customers and even grateful when she made no sales. "I know things go fine tomorrow, yeah. God go provide," she often said, smiling as she gazed into the sky, both hands stretched as if wanting to touch it. Mama Kitanga hated nothing, and not even bad days or disappointment, which she saw as blessings. She was pleasant in every situation. She adored everything and everyone. She adored children and had 12 of her own, an exceptional achievement for which she was often praised. She had 2 sets of twins, a set of triplets, and 5 individual children. A lucky woman, an amazing mother, and one gifted by the ancestor goddess to bear all the children of the world, the local of KoutouKou would say. Mama Kitanga loved running business and selling in the market. She sold everything, the best product imported from near and faraway lands. She even sold the best fabrics in town, well, with bright colors and intricate patterns. She even designed her own fabrics, abstract pieces with hidden symbols and messages. She was gifted in art and music, a poet and a storyteller. Some said that she was the keeper of all tales, myth, history, and even parables passed down to her in her sleep from the ancestors. She loved money, and she loved to make money, lots and lots and lots and lots of money. Lovely and kind-hearted, Mama Kitanga would give her very last to anyone in need. Yet, despite being taken completely by this woman's charm and other personalities, everyone in the land of KoutouKou, including her own family, children, and husband, was oblivious about some crucial details of her past. One big secret pained her daily. It was like a rock, a heavy weight that sat on her chest, the one that she was too ashamed to reveal. In KoutouKou, no one knew that Mama Kitanga was a born warrior. She was a medicine woman, a spiritual healer, whose knowledge was bequeathed to her by the ancestors in a dream. She was especially vigorous and physical for a woman her age, a sport champion in her childhood, and a princess. Had she not been kidnapped by her jealous uncle Kuwanga after her father's mysterious death and let to die in the great savannah, young Kitanga would have grown up to become a queen. Even in her childhood, the old ones were fond of her and prophesied that she would become a great leader, greater than all the kings and queens of the past. But most importantly, no one in the land of KoutouKou knew that Mama Kitanga was illiterate. She could not read, write, or count, and this did not sit well with her. She was always worried that eventually everyone would know the truth, her secret, that she was not just Mama Kitanga of Ofowourri, but the Mama who could not read, who could not write, and who could not count. Oh my goodness, they will know the truth. They will know everything. This made her anxious. They will know that she, Mama Kitanga, was a princess and a queen, a throneless, queendomless queen who could not read, who could not write, and who could not count. How painful! How painful! They will know that she was kidnapped and kicked out of her land and left to die in the savannah, all because she could not learn to read, to write, or to count, even with all the hours teachers spent painstakingly teaching her. She had only been a child, but the only princess, and now the only queen, a queendomless queen who could not read, write, or count. Mama Kitanga worried and grumbled that she deserved this pain, which made her sick to her stomach every day. After all, no one wants a stupid princess, and now a queen, a stupid, queendomless queen who did not learn to read, write, or count. At the tender age of 50, she was worried about her family, her husband, and her children. What would they say about her? What would they think of her? How would this revelation change their perception of her? How would they feel learning that she, their mother, a sister, and a wife could not read, write, or count? How would her husband feel learning that he married a stupid wife, one who could not read, who could not write, and who could not count? She worried that this would bring shame to the family, and they would be the talk of the land. The entire community will laugh at their pain. Will her husband leave her and banish her from the land? She would question herself as she grumbled silently in pain. After all, if he banished her, he would be justified, she thought. No one wants a stupid wife, one who was a princess and now a queen, a stupid, queendomless queen who could not read, who could not write, and who could not count. No man wants a stupid wife. Their neighbors will laugh at them, and her children will be ashamed to go to school. Mama Kitanga often questioned herself about what her husband would feel after learning her secret, but she dreaded the possibility that her children would find out that she could not read, write, or count. This would teach them that their mother was stupid and had been stupid all along. They would come to remember that because their mother could not read, write, or count, she never helped them with their homework, project, or anything school-related. In fact, she always had excuses, senseless excuses. They would realize that this was why their mother always used headaches as an excuse to avoid helping them with school-related things. They would connect the dot and realize that is why she often kept away from numbers, counting, and mathy stuff. They would learn that she was deep in debt and that she had often gave people more money for change than necessary because she could not count. They would discover that she had signed their house away to criminal scammers and even signed a guilty statement to a crime she did not commit, all because she could not read, write, or count. But worst among worst, her children and husband, her brother, her family, the community, and the entire land of KoutouKou would never see her the same again. Mama Kitanga was often busy in the market, surrounded by many people, some customers, others curious bystanders, and many scammers and thieves trying to take advantage of any slight opportunity to steal. Her kiosk was the largest, widest, and most beautifully painted. The tables had the freshest, brightest items in the market. The shelves were always filled, but she often sold out and had to restock. She sold everything and always had what customers wanted. She sold dry goods, the latest electronic appliances on one side, and clothes, medicine, and tools on the other side. Fruits and vegetables, rice, and all kinds of strange things that I can neither pronounce nor recognize were also separately shelved. Mama Kitanga entertained her customers and bystanders with the latest musical bangers and sold all the items the world had to offer. However, for this woman, the time in the market was both joyous and marked by constant disappointment. This was the result of her inability to read, write, or count. She always wished to learn her letters, her numbers, her sentences, be able to spell words, big difficult words or small easy words, to learn her math, and to be able to read, write, and count. While not being able to do these things was bad enough, she hated that she could neither spell nor write her own name. But despite Mama Kitanga wanting to do something about her inability to read, write, and count, she could not help herself. She was also ashamed to reveal her truth to her family, her community, and to the entire land of KoutouKou. And so, her misfortune only grew. She kept making costly mistakes in the market, and the more mistakes she made, the more worried she became. Every day, she lost at least 25% of her sales and 50% of her profit. Because she could not read or write, she was often tricked by thieves in the market. One day it happened. Even though Mama Kitanga's family and the land of KoutouKou did not know her secret, the thieves, cheats, and other bad people had noticed. But the one particular group, the Dulanga gang, had monitored her closely, sending watchers to stand in a corner watching Mama Kitanga's every move. This group was very skilled in their operation. They would always surround their victim, create a diversion, and even deny onlooker access as they operate. They were fast in their ways and known to come and go in the blink of an eye. Except for the main person leading an operation, individual members would alternate in their position, making it difficult for their victim or onlookers to recognize their faces. Nobody ever knew what they looked like, and they knew just the right time to conduct their operation. The Dulanga gang had spent too much time observing this woman and had discovered that she could not read, write, or count. On several occasions, members took turns going to Mama Kitanga's kiosk to buy small things, giving her the smallest bills. In return, they often got hefty sums of money for change, even when they gave her the exact amount of money for a product. For the thieves, This was the greatest discovery of all time, the one to bring them the amount of money of which they had ever dreamt. After the gang members had reviewed all the reports, they concluded that the best time to conduct their operations was in the evening, between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m., when vendors were closing shops. At this time, they concluded, Mama Kitanga would be very busy unpacking her kiosk and preparing to have the tow boys transport her goods to the warehouse. At this time, she would be confused, blindsided, and easily fooled. On this sad day, the Julanga gang was well organized in their thievery and well prepared. Their main target was Mama Kitanga. They would make it big, members of the gang thought. They were embarking on the biggest payday of their lives. The individual members could not wait to conduct this operation. They could smell success, taste happiness, and envision lots and lots and lots of money. They could see themselves swimming in money, large notes, middle notes, small notes, and even coins. They could see themselves waving checks, promissory notes, and even debt book containing the names of all the people throughout KoutouKou who owed money to Mama Kitanga. They would visit these debtors one by one, collecting Mama Kitanga's money for themselves. But how would they conduct this operation? What would they buy? How many things would they buy, and where would the money come from? After spending much time ideating, Makamba, the youngest gang member, came up with an idea. They would pool their money to create an operations fund and go to Mama Kitanga to buy things. They would come up with a story so sad and emotional that she would have no choice but to help them. But what story will they tell her? What emotion will they use? How will they tell this story? Members of the gang could neither agree nor come up with a story. Not even the leader, Maliu, the super trickster who was so skilled that he could talk anyone into doing anything he desired of them. But one question lingered. What to do with the things purchased? We should sell them and share the money according to how much each member contributed. This means that we will receive the amount we contributed to the operations fund, and we will share the profit according to the percentage each member contributed to the fund. How are you, Mama Kitanga? Maliu, the gang member, greeted the woman enthusiastically as he approached her. Gang members turned to look at each other and winked with menacing smiles plastered on their faces. I am fine, young man, Mama Kitanga replied calmly, unsuspected of any negativity. It was her character. She was trusting, perhaps naively trusting everyone. I hope that you are all fine today and are staying out of trouble. We are fine, Mama Kitanga. We are not getting into trouble, the gang members replied hypocritically. They had encircled the kiosk and were taking strategic position to prevent passerby and onlookers from interrupting their operation. In KoutouKou, business transaction in which customers buy large quantities of products could create a spectacle and attract unwanted attention. The gang despised this. Well, great to hear. But I am sorry, I do not need help unpacking my chaos today. It is a much needed exercise for me, but anyway, do you boys need anything? Are you hungry? Do you need anything to eat? I am unsure of how much help I can be to you today. I have packed and sealed many of my products, and I am in a hurry to beat the sunset. Today is a late day for me, and I must hurry home to cook for my husband and children. I have to clean the house, wash the clothes, and complete other important tasks before going to bed. Well, Mama Kitanga, my name is Maliu, and these are my brothers and cousins. We were sent to buy some things for the feast being prepared in honor of our late grandfather. He died 1 year ago and tomorrow is his anniversary. We were told that you always have everything and are often helpful, making sure your customers always get what they want. As you can see, Mama Kitanga, most vendors have completely unpacked their product, ready them for the warehouse, or do not have what we want. We need everything we were sent to buy because the women and girls will begin cooking at 5 in the morning. The men and boys have to prepare the community, collect chairs and benches, slaughter the goats, and complete other tasks relegated to them. Oh young man Maliyu, I am deeply sorry for your troubles. Anyway, I think I can help. What do you need? Maliyu paused. He had no answer. He had not anticipated such a question. The truth is that these gang members were thieves, not ordinary customers, and not all of them were skilled at market transaction or even at lying. Maliyu turned to his subordinates, hoping that at least one of them had an answer to Mama Kitanga's question. At that moment, Makamba stepped forward. Mama Kitanga locked eyes with him and began studying every pattern of his face, his mannerism, and his confidence. He had a large brown envelope filled with clean sheets of papers with writings. Whatever was written on them was neatly written in both longhand cursives and shorthand. Maliyu and his gang members were in shock, though they were trembling. They knew that Makamba was the man of ideas, one who could read and write exceptionally, a high-class student during his school years. He always thought critically, planned well in advance, and saved the day always. However, they could not believe their eyes. On this dark day for Mama Kitanga, Makamba's personality, his ambition, and operational planning were top-notch. Mama Kitanga waited and stared hard, but undisturbingly as Makamba shuffled through the envelope, pulling out its content. Clean sheets of papers with fine writing on them. He shuffled through the papers until he found the one he wanted, then handed it to his leader. Here, Brother Aliyu, this is the list, remember. You always forget. Overnight, Makamba had prepared a list of things they would buy from Mama Kitanga. Here, Mama Kitanga, this is the list. Maliyu handed Mama Kitanga the list, and this changed her face and mood. She was confused and ashamed, and she knew it. But Maliyu and his gang members understood what was happening. Having observed her for far too long, they could recognize the lack of comfort and the level of embarrassment that Mama Kitanga had successfully hidden from everyone. They knew that Mama Kitanga did not know what was written on the list because she was a mama who could not read, write, or count. Okay, Mama Kitanga, I will read the list to you. I know that you are very tired and ready to go home. Also, there are just too many things written on this list, and I understand that it can be confusing. Makamba remarked, offering to read the list as he stepped toward Mama Kitanga. She handed him the list, and he began. Mama Kitanga, thanks for everything. Your help, your courage, and your wisdom. However, we want 10 50-pound bags of rice, 5 50-pound bags of onions, 3 bags of tomatoes, 5 bags of pepper, 40 100-pound boxes of fish, snapper, 1 large male and collie Watusi cow, which we must slaughter as soon as possible, 8 goats, 2 bags of garlic, 50 bottles of black pepper, 50 bottles of seasoning. Makamba continued to read the list as Mama Kitanga, Confused and tired, unpacked sealed loads she had readied for transport to the warehouse. She instructed the tow boys and the warehouse management that her goods would be ready for pickup much later than expected. She also asked them to prepare the cow and goats for pickup. She agreed to pay the late fees, which was 5 times the on-time pickup fee. As she unpacked and put aside each product the gang wanted, she also told them the cost, and Makamba wrote the cost next to each product on his list. Maliu and his fellow gang members were pleased with the transaction process, but were eager to conclude it. Finally, the unpacking and counting were completed, and all the products the gang desired had been collected and set aside. Since Mama Kitanga could not read, write, or count, Makamba and his gang friends led the calculation of the transaction's cost. The total, 700,000 KT/KC, or KoutouKou cedis. They gave her the exact money and requested change, 10.5 million KT/KC, or KoutouKou cedis, which Mama Kitanga happily gave them. "Thank you, young man. Thank you all for your business. Please come again." She handed each of them sweets and a bottle of homemade ginger beer for their business. At that moment, Makamba pulled out 4 clean sheets of papers with elegantly written words that Mama Kitanga could neither read nor pronounce. Every 2 pieces of papers had identical text. They asked her to sign the papers and told her it was part of their transaction. Makamba also pulled out another piece of paper containing only the words in a large print, Eidiomma Kitanga. Because she could not read, write, or count, Mama Kitanga did not know what was written on the paper. However, they instructed her to write her name on the signature line on the main papers by looking at the word Eidiomma Kitanga in large print on the other paper. Mama Kitanga did accordingly, and the gang members toted their purchased or perhaps stolen items away. They did not help her repack her goods, readying them for the warehouse. And so Mama Kitanga began to pack all by herself. Occasionally, however, some tow boys would visit her kiosk to help her and transport packed silk loads to the warehouse. She was tired, but she could not stop. She wanted to finish as soon as she could so that she could rush home to cook for her husband and children, clean up the house, wash the clothes, and complete other important tasks before going to bed. "Mama, how are you today? What is going on? Why are you still here so late?" Ajwa, Mama Kitanga's eldest child, inquired sadly as she approached her mother. She was now on holiday for the Festival of Wisdom and Knowledge, also known as the Festival of Mass. She had returned home earlier in the day. Ajwa was a second-year college student studying medicine and general and political administration at the Grand Ancestral University of KoutouKou. As an outstanding student, she was awarded the most Matiola Sua scholarship even while in primary school. Mama Kitanga's children approached her, feeling sad that their mother was working so hard and still in the market so late. All 12 of them approached her and embraced her in the warmest hug ever. They did not want to let her go and wanted the hug to continue forever. Mama Kitanga was a lucky woman with a happy, proud family despite her inability to read, write, or count, and her misfortune in the market. She had 12 beautiful children and a wonderful husband who always supported her in every situation. She had 2 sets of twins, a set of triplets, and 5 individual children. But as the hugging stopped, the rest of the children immediately began helping pack and prepare the load for the warehouse, Adjua held her mother tightly and then fell to her knees. She stood up again, hugged her mother, then placed her right hand on her mother's neck. Mama, your body is too hot. You also look weak, Adjua pressed. And sick too, Lamina added. Have you eaten? He continued. No, I have not eaten. I have not been able to eat anything at all, Mama Kitanga replied. Please sit down and eat this, Mama. We will do the packing and prepare the loads for the warehouse. Adjua reached into her mother's favorite food basket, used only for special occasions and for carrying food to family members and elders in the community. She took out spoons, trays, bowls, and two nicely decorated ceramic bowls, then removed their lids. This revealed pounded yam fufu, pepper soup, finely ground and seasoned Beni seeds with pepper and okra. In another bowl there was boiled cassava, potato, and cocoyam. At first, Mama Kitanga was reluctant as she wanted to finish packing so that the two boys could transport the loads to the warehouse. However, Adjua insisted that her mother sit and eat, and Mama Kitanga complied respectfully with her eldest child. Where is your father? Mama Kitanga inquired curiously. Has he eaten? And where did you get this food? Yes, he has eaten, Mama. I cooked, cleaned, washed your clothes, Papa's clothes, and the little one's clothes as well. I instructed those who are capable to wash their own clothes, and they had done their homework. Papa is on his way. He was coming with us, but he stopped to greet Uncle Aliyu. I believe that the two of them will come to the market. While Mama Kitanga ate, her children continued to help unpack the kiosk and get the load ready for transport to the warehouse. Adjua began to study the shelves. She grumbled about the money box where she found a small amount. Impossible, she thought. She had been to the market several times before to help her mother, and they had made more sales than the amount in the box. She looked into the market record bag, grabbed the record book, and began to study it. She became perplexed because nothing added up. Mama, how many sales did you make today? And how much have you made since I returned to campus? Also, didn't you receive new inventory? It appears that you did not record anything in the book, not sales, not inventory. Plus, where is all the money? She inquired with concern. Well, honestly, I am unsure, but I know that I made too many sales today. One of my biggest day ever. In fact, I had just completed my last sales of the day when you all arrived. It was a big sale, and I sold too many things. Mama Kitanga replied as she continued to eat hungrily. Do you remember how much sales you made? Adjua asked curiously. About 700,000 KTKC. Adjua immediately began calculating in her head. Mama Kitanga could not remember, but she continued to eat as fast as she could, as if it was her very last meal ever. At that moment, Mama Kitanga's husband arrived with Uncle Aliyu. It was now 9 p.m., and the entire market was dark and empty. Only the warehouse was open, and the night vendors outside the market building were selling roasted cassava, roasted corn, and other items suitable to nightlife in KoutouKou. Mama Kitanga's husband and Uncle Aliyu greeted her and apologized for being late. However, they recognized a concerned look on the children's faces and embarrassment on Mama Kitanga's. He instructed them all to hurry home. Adjua shared a gaze with her father. and they expressed a level of understanding that the others could not. But the bunch, together with their father and Uncle Aliyu, continued helping as fast as they could until the final load was ready and towed away to the warehouse. Mama Kitanga, her husband, Uncle Aliyu, and her 12 children walked tiredly home. The group entered a yard pitch black and stumbled into a dark house. It was pitch black, completely dark, and so dark that one could not see one's hand in front of one's face. Ajwa managed to make her way to the lantern shelf and grab one of the lanterns. From the cabinet under the shelf, she grabbed a matchbox full of matches and lit all the lanterns. She then instructed the elder of her younger siblings to take the lit lanterns to their respective places, and the house and yard were completely lit. The parlor, kitchen, all the rooms, and the front and back verandas. Ajwa then went into the yard to pick up all the remaining clothes from the lines and bring them inside. She then rejoined the others in the parlor, the customary gathering place in all the lands. The parlor was where everything happened: celebration, gossip, prayers, keeping companies, and night storytelling. However, after having done all the packing and unpacking in the market, they were all extremely tired. Also, they were uneased by the tension and deathly silence in the room. Mama Kitanga's husband wanted to break the silence but did not know how to ask or where to begin the conversation. In fact, he could not find the right words. He had no idea about what had transpired earlier in the market. Uncle Aliyu was always direct in his approach to conversation, but he too could not find a word to break the silence that night. Also, he thought to himself that it would be inappropriate to initiate a conversation about something that he knew nothing about, even though he was in his younger sister's house. Ajwa wanted to inform her father and uncle of what she had discovered in the market, but could not begin to talk without permission or without being asked. After all, it was tradition in all the land that children, no matter their age, experiences, or level of education, do not speak in the gathering of elders without being spoken to or authorized to do so. As for the other children, they too could not speak without the permission of the elders or their elder sister. For our own Mama Kitanga, she was afraid of what that particular day was about to reveal, her secret. Everyone in that parlor was going to learn that she, Mama Kitanga, was the mama, a wife, and a sister who could not read, write, or count. She worried that her brother would begin to think negatively about her. She calculated that she was about to lose the respect of her children and husband, all because she could not read, write, or count. She felt that her neighbors, the entire community, and the land of KoutouKou would learn of her big shameful secret. She could not read, write, or count. But then she remembered that she could have made a big mistake earlier in the market. This, she thought, was the end, her final end, and the very end to her ability and willingness to keep this big secret from everyone. "My wife, you look troubled tonight and have been so since I saw you in the market earlier. I have never seen you like this, and I am concerned as your husband. Your brother here is concerned, and so are the children. What is troubling you today?" Mama Kitanga's husband finally broke the silence. Reflecting on their faces, the glowing highlight from the lantern revealed smiles from ear to ear, showing their love, appreciation, and support for Mama Kitanga. However, she said nothing. Instead, she buried her face in her arm. Her husband slowly moved his chair next to her and began slightly tapping her back. Ajua, yes, Papa. What happened in the market today? Papa, Uncle Aliyu, while in the market, I looked into the money box and noticed less money than should have been there. It was confusing because having been in the market selling with Mama so many times, I thought it was impossible. The Kitanga shop is in a strategic location and always has what everyone needs. I asked Mama about that and got no good answer. In fact, she even told me that she had made lots of sales today, which even made it more impossible for her to have an amount of money significantly lower than what should be in the bag. What do you mean? Also, Papa, I studied the record book and noticed that no log has been made since I last made the previous inventory. That was a month ago. Yes, Papa, the record book does not show any inventory or banking deposit. That, in addition to the house safe being completely empty, made my discovery in the market much telling. What do you mean? Well, Uncle Aliyu, our house safe does not have any money in it. On my way home from the college this morning, I stopped at the bank to deposit excess amount of money from my stipend into the family savings. And I had done so 3 times in the past month. The receipt and balance statement indicate excessive withdrawal, no recent deposit from Mama or Papa, and negative balance. What? Negative balance? Yes, Papa, negative. We have negative balance in the bank account. We owe the bank. But how? I made some withdrawal and took some loans. Mama Kitanga interjected. But how? And why? We do not need money. Well, Papa, Uncle Aliyu, if I may continue, I believe that to understand this whole thing, we should begin with the situation in the market today. Then, work our way to the bank and to the house safe. Let us find out from Mama how many sales she made today and pay close attention to her last sales. Eidiomma, brother, what is troubling you? Also, did you make any sales today? Yes, of course, I made sales. Lots of sales. But why is it that you have a very small amount of money in the money box? What happened to the rest of the money made today? I gave some change. I do remember making 700,000 KTKC in my last sales today. And I give 10.5 million KTKC back as change. And I had to sign these papers as evidence of our business transaction. You what? Eidiomma, do you realize what you have done? Do you realize what has happened to you? Hand me these papers. Mama Kitanga untied the papers from her wrapper and handed them to her husband. He was shocked when he read what was written on them and that his wife had signed them. Aliyu, please read these papers and talk to your sister because I don't know what to say. Mama Kitanga's husband grumbled, handing the papers to Mr. Aliyu, who groaned as he read them. This realization unsettled everyone in the parlor more so than they had been earlier. Mama Kitanga had signed her name on 2 documents which she could not read. But she did not understand what she had done and refused to look at the papers when her brother handed them back to her. She was embarrassed. She handed the papers to Ajua, who began to read them one at a time. The first one reads, I, Eidiomma Kitanga of Ofowourri, do swear upon my 12 children and loving husband, and prepared this document as a solemn confession that I am responsible for the crime committed at the Watari house last Saturday. I snuck into Mr. Watari's house and demanded that he show me his safe and hand me the key to unlock it. When he protested and refused to comply, I took swift action. I took his life. As for how I did it, evidence at the murder scenes does serve as testimony to the nature of this crime. I am also responsible for forging his signature and withdrawing over 600 million KTKC from his personal bank account and 3.2 billion KTKC from his company's bank account. I take full responsibility for my actions, apologize for these crimes, and accept whatever form of justice is ordered to be my fate. Signed, Eidiomma Kitanga. Everyone in the parlor paused in surprise, not because this revelation did not make sense, but because they could not believe that their mother, wife, and a sister could sign such a document. Heartbroken, Adwa continued with the next document. It reads, I, Eidiomma Kitanga of Ofowourri, do swear upon my 12 children and loving husband, and prepare this document as a solemn confession of my will, that I bequeath this house and all property in my name, including remuneration owed to me, financial assets in my possession or in savings, and all things not mentioned in this document to Maliu, Makamba, and their brothers, living or deceased. It is my will that neither my children nor my husband shall receive any portion, whether small or large, from my estate. Let it be so. Signed, Eidiomma Kitanga. Mama, Eidiomma, Eidiomma, the others called angrily. Did you commit those crimes? Did you kill Mr. Watari? Why did you sign these documents? They asked sadly but curiously. But the more they inquired, the more revelation came out. Mama Kitanga had emptied the house safe and their family savings in the bank to buy new market inventories and cover her losses. They learned that she could not read, write, or count. However, they all began to blame themselves. They had observed Mama Kitanga displaying inabilities many times, but they ignored it. Mr. Aliyu dropped to his sister's and her husband's feet and cried, begging for forgiveness. He accepted that he knew that his sister, who was 10 years his junior, could not read, write, or count, even at a young age. He, as the elder brother, had not followed up on her to teach her. Also, as a professor in the field of education, learning, and disability at one of the most prestigious universities in all the land, he should have known about his sister's problem and helped her long ago. Mama Kitanga's husband accepted responsibility for his wife's trouble, and now for his family's trouble as well. He had not helped his wife learn to read, write, or count, and had allowed himself to have 12 children with her. He loved his family and his children so much, but he blamed himself for not giving his wife time to learn. She had done too much for the family and was always too busy to do anything, including learning. All the times he had spent with his wife, he did not pay attention to her display of learning inability to help her. With tears rolling down her cheeks uncontrollably, Mama Kitanga rushed to hug her children. She kissed them all on the cheek and apologized for not being able to help them with their homework, project, and other school-related things. She apologized to them all and to her husband and elder brothers for hiding the fact that she could not read, write, or count. I am sorry, children, husband and brother, for not being honest with you all. I am sorry for being a stupid wife, a sister, and a stupid mama who cannot read, write, and count. I am sorry for bringing disgrace to this family. Now, neighbors, the entire community and KoutouKou would learn that I, Eidiomma Kitanga, cannot read, write, or count. Mama Kitanga remarked, but before she could continue, the others shouted aloud, "No, do not say such a thing. You are our mother, a wife, and a sister, and we love and appreciate you no matter what. You are not stupid and you have never been such. We are proud of you, Eidiomma Kitanga of Ofowourri." Ajua apologized to her younger siblings, her mother, her father, and Uncle Aliyu. She had always been with her mother in the market longer than her siblings. She felt ashamed that she could not discover her mother's predicament, and as a result, she could not prevent the predicament her mother and the family were now in. As the bunch cried and embraced one another, they began to learn more about each other and their family history. Mama Kitanga and Uncle Ali revealed that they were a prince and a princess, or perhaps a prince and a princess without a kingdom or queendom. Mama Kitanga explained what happened at the market. She told her husband, brother, and her children that a group of boys and men approached her and offered to make a large purchase. Maliu approached her, asking to buy some things in preparation for a large feast honoring their late grandfather. They claimed that she, Mama Kitanga, was the only person who had what they needed and that their family was supposed to be preparing for the feast the next morning. She was busy, confused, and wanted to help, but now she realized that she had gotten herself and her family into trouble. Because of what she had done, she had lost all of her sales money. Her family had no money in their house safe or in the bank. They had no money to send their children to school, and her secret had been revealed. Maliu did not have a list, but one of them approached and provided a list. He read the list and recorded the cost of the things that they wanted as I put them aside. "But Mama, do you know what they look like?" Ajua asked. No, Ajua, I could not make up their faces, except for one of them, the one who handed the list. He reminds me of your brother Lamina, very handsome, but he has a scar on his face and left jaw. Makamba? Oh, yes, I remember the name, Makamba. Do you know him? Yes, Mama, I know him. I know Makamba very well. I know him. He is the boy from my secondary school, and I spoke with you and Papa about him several times. He tried to approach me several times, but I refused his advances every time. He is not a good person. He is the only student who performed better on the BAS exam, scoring higher than I did. However, it has been proven that he used unapproved help on the exam and was stripped of his title. He was also expelled from school and his record was sent to the university. Okay, well, since you know him, take me to where he lives and I will deal with him. Mama Kitanga's husband pressed angrily. I am in strong support of that action. Let's go. Uncle Aliyu declared, it is better that we take the matter to the police first. These gangs are dangerous and we do not want to get ourselves in more trouble than we already in. Lamina interjected, even though it was not his place to speak. However, Ajua spoke in support of his idea. Yes, Papa, yes, Uncle Aliyu. Lamina is right. Let's do that now. Let's take the matter to the police first. But we should not forget that, even with that, we should first make note of what we will include in the report. Also, we should not go to the gang's place for now. We should only report the matter to the police station. But even with all that, we must first begin coming up with a plan for Mama. We must teach her to read, write, and count. Ajua interjected. It was now 12 o'clock a.m. Ajua, her father, Uncle Aliyu, and the other children agreed that even though they had accepted that the matter had to go to the police, they had to teach Mama Kitanga to read, write, and count. They would implement lessons through 2 phases and several tasks. She would learn to read and write and also learn her numbers and to count. Phase 1. To teach Mama Kitanga to read and write. The tasks are: task number 1. She will learn her letters and their sounds, and she will sing them aloud. Task number 2. She will identify and write her letters. Task number 3. She will learn to spell lots of words, basic, simple words, and then strange words, difficult words. Task number 4. She will learn to write and read her own sentences. Task number 5. She will practice reading random sentences written by her own children, her husband, Uncle Aliyu, her family members, and random people. Task number 6. She will practice reading children's books, then graduate to more difficult books as her reading ability improves. Phase number 2. To teach Mama Kitanga her numbers and to count. The tasks are: task number 1. She will learn to sing the number songs and write numbers from 1 to 10, from 10 to 20, from 20 to 30, and so on, until she reaches 100. After that, she will count and write her numbers from 1 to 100 without stopping, then continue the process. Task number 2. She will learn to spell lots of number words and do basic math problems. Task number 3. She will practice giving change in the market when someone buys from her market kiosk. Task number 4. She will be rewarded with lots of thanks, praises, and appreciation. She will get more help in the market and at home and will be given enough time to focus on learning to read, write, and count. Task number 5. Once Mama Kitanga had learned her letters and her numbers, once she had learned to read, write, and count, she will write her own children's book with lots of letters and numbers. She will include sellers' everyday activities in the market. She will include the various products that the seller sells in the market. She will include their interaction with customers. She will include mathy stuff and the seller giving change to customers who had bought something. But most importantly, she will read this book to all the children in the community during the Festival of Wisdom and Knowledge, also known as the Festival of Mask. Mama Kitanga accepted that it will take a long time to learn to read, write, and count. But she will not give up. She will keep trying no matter how difficult or how long it takes. The end. So friends, that's the end. That's conclude the book, Mama Kitanga of Ofowourri, the mama who could not read, who could not write, and who could not count. Book 1. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please tell me what you think. Also, please give me ideas for stories. or whatsoever. Peace.